My best friend seemed to be pregnant, so I went with her to the hospital for a checkup. As we had just walked out of the obstetrics department, we ran straight into a SWAT captain on duty, and the moment my best friend saw him, her face drained of color. Crap. My brother. If he finds out I got pregnant before marriage, he'll kill me. Before she had time to think, she shoved the pregnancy report into my hand. Meeting the man's scrutinizing gaze, my best friend gave a sheepish smile. "I'm here with Susan," she said. "Her boyfriend is so irresponsible." The man looked over at me, and I dropped my eyes to the floor. Late that night, he appeared at my place, looking exhausted and hollowed out, his voice faintly trembling. "We've been together for 6 months," he said. "I've never even touched you. So whose child is it?" When Monica Brown stuffed her pregnancy test results into my hand, I froze for a moment. By my ear, I heard her low, pleading whisper, "Save me, save me, save me." When I came back to my senses, Keith Brown had already walked up to the two of us. The young nurses passing by stole furtive glances at him. Dressed head to toe in a black SWAT uniform, with his 186 height, his presence felt even more imposing. His features were sharply defined, and years of training had given his skin a healthy wheat-brown glow. He was pure, concentrated hormones. Keith must have been on duty somewhere nearby. Running into us at the hospital seemed to surprise him a little, too. "Hey, what are you doing here, Keith?" Monica chirped as she bounced over, trying to divert her brother's attention. Keith kept it brief. "A colleague got hurt. I brought him in." His gaze slid to the sign of the department behind us, the 3 characters for obstetrics standing out starkly. "And you're here for?" "A checkup." Monica's brain worked surprisingly fast at a time like this. "We meant to go to gynecology, but we went the wrong way and ended up in obstetrics." Instinctively, I tightened my grip on the pregnancy report and quietly hid it behind my back. His presence was so overpowering that I couldn't help sneaking a look at him. I was caught off guard when our eyes met, and my whole body went rigid. Just then, a nurse came out of obstetrics, smiled at us, and said, "You got your pregnancy report, right? The doctor is on the way. Please wait here for a moment." Keith's gaze dropped to me again, heavy with scrutiny and speculation. Monica and I have been best friends for over 10 years, so I know her well. I also know that the person she fears most is her brother. They grew up in a single-parent household. Their mother worked herself to the bone to support the two of them and barely had any time left to discipline them. Keith is 5 years older than Monica. From childhood to now, he has managed Monica more strictly than their mother ever did. When Monica was in middle school, her mother died of illness. From then on, Keith became her primary guardian. He is steady by nature, doesn't smile easily, and his methods are ruthless. When Monica's early high school romance was discovered, the teacher called him in. He was all politeness and warmth at school. Once they stepped outside, he dragged the boy in front of Monica. The boy was scared half to death, swearing over and over that he didn't like Monica, that he was only fooling around, that from then on he would walk the long way around whenever he saw her. That incident completely shattered Monica's fantasy of school romance. Keith knows very well how to kill without laying a finger, how to stab straight into someone's heart. And precisely because of that, even now that Monica has a job and a boyfriend, she still doesn't dare tell her brother. Their relationship is clearly stable, and her boyfriend even proposed to her a week ago, yet Keith is still in the dark. "He's busy with work and hardly ever comes home," Monica says. "Even if I wanted to tell him, I can never find the right moment." But I know that's not the real reason. She's afraid Keith will pull the same terrifying tricks he used in the past to test her boyfriend. She never expected to get pregnant this time. It was just once. Who knew once would be all it took? She's planning to keep the baby. She does intend to tell Keith about it, just not now. Right now is an absolutely terrible time. Out of sheer fear of her brother, Monica shoved the pregnancy report into my hands and blurted out, almost without thinking, "I'm here with Susan." Righteous indignation lit up her face. Her boyfriend, TSK, I don't even want to talk about him. Irresponsible scumbag. Total jerk. She got more and more carried away, completely oblivious to the way Keith's expression was growing darker and darker. His gaze shifted over and landed on me. It clung to me like something bone-deep and unshakable, making my skin prickle. Keith asked, sounding offhand, "She has a boyfriend?" "Of course," Monica said. "I've even met him." Keith fell silent. The air suddenly turned strange and tense. Just as I was about to suffocate from the awkwardness, another man in a SWAT uniform ran over. "Captain, Tim is awake." Keith's expression tightened. "I'll go take a look." The situation was urgent. He didn't have time to say anything more to us, and he turned and walked away. Monica let out a long breath of relief. When she turned and saw how dazed I looked, her eyes filled with grateful tears. "Susan, you are literally my savior. How about this, let's find somewhere quiet and I'll kowtow to you properly. Otherwise I'll never forgive myself." She made me laugh. I've taken the blame for her more times than I can count over the years, one more doesn't really matter. As she likes to put it, the whole point of having a friend is to have someone who'll ignore their conscience and still take your side. I poked her in the forehead. Enough. Go see the doctor. Sensitive as she is, she picked up on my mood and tried to reassure me. It's fine. You don't really know my brother. He won't take it that seriously. We just need to muddle through for now. I'll explain everything to him later. A nurse came out and called her name, and Monica went in with the pregnancy report. I stood at the doorway of the department, feeling a little dazed. I turned my head in the direction Keith had left, Monica's words echoing in my ears. It's fine. You don't really know my brother. I couldn't help letting out a quiet sigh. Don't know him? I know him far too well. Monica and I went our separate ways after we left the hospital. Her boyfriend, Robert Jones, picked her up. They probably had a lot to talk about. I went home and took a nap, and when I woke up again, it was already getting dark. My stomach was growling, so I ordered takeout. I had barely watched a few minutes of television when the doorbell rang. So fast? Today's delivery was really efficient. I hurried over and yanked the door open, and froze on the spot. Keith was standing at my door. Out of his black uniform and in a simple white shirt, he looked a little less cold and forbidding. Maybe he had rushed over. There was a sheen of sweat on his forehead. He took a few deep breaths, then lifted his gaze to pin me in place. What, you're not going to invite me in? Monica has no idea that I actually dated her brother. We were together for more than half a year and only broke up a month ago. At first, everything I knew about Keith came from Monica. She complained that her brother was old-fashioned, cold-blooded, and brutal. And I believed her, mentally equating him with the terrorists he arrested. So I never dared set foot in her home. Until one time, when Monica and I went out to play and accidentally fell into an abandoned drainage shaft. The walls were slick and wet. We tried climbing out for ages and couldn't. We shouted until our voices were hoarse and no one heard us. In despair, we huddled together and cried. Then a voice suddenly came from above. Wow, already crying? You look terrible when you cry. Hey, are either of you hurt? I looked up and froze. I was 15 that year, and it was the first time I saw the supposedly vicious, demonic brother Monica always talked about. From then on, I understood that Monica's words came steeped in personal emotion and should never be taken wholly at face value. Back then, I was too young to know whether my heart was secretly waking up to love, or if I was simply curious about her brother. I started paying attention to him, consciously or not. Whenever Monica grumbled about him, I would deliberately ask a few extra questions, as if that could help me understand him a little better. When Keith graduated from the police academy, Monica said the place would be full of hotties and insisted on dragging me along to the ceremony. She got busy ogling handsome cadets, darting here and there, and I lost track of her almost immediately. But I found Keith instead. He was chatting with a few classmates on the field. His classmates teased him. Stop walking around with that stone face. You're not bad looking, and yet girls don't like you. Maybe think about why, huh? Look, all of us got gifts from girls, you're the only one who didn't. Keith, aren't you jealous? I stared at them, stunned. I don't know what got into me. I pulled the birthday present my parents had just given me out of my bag, ran over, and held it out to Keith. His classmates looked at one another, and finally one of them asked, Hey, little sis, are you even legal? I am. I just turned 18 yesterday. In the end, I don't think I helped Keith at all. I just got him pulled aside for a talk. Later, I snuck off to apologize to him. He wasn't angry in the slightest, just deeply puzzled. Can I ask what exactly you meant by giving me a pink stuffed toy? I had no idea how to respond. I can get you something else instead? I offered tentatively. No need. He actually smiled. Thank you. You made my day. I added Keith's contact information after that. And from that moment on, I started to truly get to know him. If I managed to win Keith over, it was all thanks to my reckless disregard for reality. 8 years went by, I confessed 7 times, and he finally said yes on the 8th. But the relationship didn't even make it to a full year before it ended. I was the one who brought up the breakup. There were plenty of reasons, but the only explanation I gave him was 3 short words: we're incompatible. Dragged back to the present, I looked at the man in front of me, embarrassment prickling under my skin. Right then, the delivery guy started pounding on my door. Hello, your order's here. I went over and brought the takeout inside. It was still piping hot, spicy mala soup, but this was clearly not the time to eat it. Swallowing my hunger and craving, I asked Keith, what brings you here? Keith's gaze was fixed on the takeout box on the table. This is what you're eating? I nodded, not seeing the problem. His voice dropped. You're pregnant and you're eating this? Oh no. I had completely forgotten about that. I stared at him, eyes wide. I was still trying to figure out how to explain without throwing Monica under the bus when he suddenly stood up and headed for the door. Where are you going? Grocery shopping, Keith tossed back as he yanked the door open and strode out. 15 minutes later, Keith was back. 30 minutes after that, he had 3 dishes and a soup on the table, meat and vegetables well balanced, nutrition fully accounted for. I was genuinely impressed by how fast he was. Eat first. Arms folded, Keith's voice was as cold and hard as ever. When you're done, we're going to have a proper talk. I was stuffed. When I finally lifted my head from the bowl, I found Keith watching me. Finished? Silence followed. I was the one who broke it. About the whole pregnancy thing, it's actually... Whose child is it? Keith's voice was not as steady as before. If you listened closely, you could hear the slight tremor in it. I froze for a second and lifted my eyes to look at him. He drew in a deep breath and repeated, whose child is it? We were together for 8 months and 4 days. I never touched you. So you and your current boyfriend already knew each other before we broke up? It took me a moment to realize what he meant. He thought I'd cheated on him, that I'd broken up with him because I was seeing someone else. And that this child had been conceived with another man while I was still dating him. I was instantly furious. So that's what he thinks of me? I glared at him, so angry I couldn't get a single word out. If you don't want to say, I won't press you, he murmured. He slumped back in the chair, looking a little defeated. After kneading his fingertips a few times and forcing his mood to settle, he raised his head and looked at me. Monica said he's irresponsible. So, he doesn't want this child, does he? What about you? Do you want to keep it? He changed the subject so quickly that my mind couldn't keep up. I was still tangled up in whether I should just rip the bandage off and tell him everything about Monica. It would be better than sitting here suffering on my own. But Keith mistook my brief silence for consent. It was as if he'd made up his mind about something huge. He stood up and slowly walked over to stand in front of me. If you're willing, we can go get the marriage certificate tomorrow. His gaze dropped, slowly landing on my stomach. I'll treat the baby as my own. Instinctively, I touched my belly. My first thought, ridiculous as it was that I didn't have a child in there, just all the food he'd cooked. My second thought was, has Keith lost his mind? Volunteering himself to be someone's bargain bin dad? My heart gave a tiny jolt, and I couldn't help sneaking a few looks at him. Keith's expression was serious, there wasn't even a hint that he might be joking. And that was when it suddenly hit me. Maybe Keith cared about me more than I'd ever imagined. Guilt surged over me like a tidal wave. I didn't want to lie to him anymore. Keith, actually. Beep, beep, beep. The keypad lock chimed. The only person who knew my passcode was Monica. Why on earth was she here now? My reaction was lightning fast. I grabbed Keith and shoved him into my bedroom. In her eyes, her brother and I were little more than strangers. If she found him here in my apartment, I would never be able to explain it clearly in that moment. Catching his stunned gaze, I blurted, a little breathless, your sister. The bedroom door had barely clicked shut when my front door was pushed open from the outside. I rushed over. You're here. Come on, let's go out to eat. I grabbed her arm, trying to drag her back out, but she didn't budge. She pointed at the food on my table. Didn't you just eat? Forget eating out. I came to grab my medicine. I shook my head at her furiously. But she completely missed my signal and muttered, the folic acid the doctor prescribed, I stuffed it in your bag and forgot to take it when I left. I stared at her, stunned. Why are you just standing there like an idiot? Monica gave me a puzzled once-over, then continued talking to herself. I don't know if it's the pregnancy or what, but I've been exhausted these past 2 days. The walls in my apartment are not soundproof. Monica didn't stay long. She grabbed her medicine and left. The front door closed, and the whole place fell into dead silence. I opened the bedroom door. Keith was leaning against the wardrobe, his eyes dark and unreadable. He glanced at me, then at my stomach. You're not pregnant. It's Monica. He was quiet for a moment, then nodded to himself and started toward the door. It's getting late. You should get some rest. Even if you're not pregnant, try to cut down on all that takeout. He paused, then added, I shouldn't have showed up so abruptly today. Sorry to have disturbed you. His tone was calm. But I could feel the storm building beneath that calm surface. I grabbed his arm. Monica didn't mean to hide it from you. The pregnancy was an accident. She only just found out. Her boyfriend is a good guy and he really loves her. I know you're angry right now, but please, calm down first. Angry? Keith gave a short laugh. I'm not angry. Then unclench your molars before you say that. Keith stepped out the door and strode forward a few paces, then stopped again. He turned back. If this whole thing was a lie, then what about you having a boyfriend? I didn't dare lie anymore. That's fake too. Keith was silent for a few seconds. Then, without a word, he turned and left. I worried about it for a long time. I texted and called Monica, but she didn't answer. At 11 that night, I finally got a call from Keith. Is Monica with you? My heart lurched. No. What happened? On the other end of the line, Keith sounded so tired he could barely hide it. I said some harsh things, and Monica lost her temper too. She stormed out about an hour ago and hasn't come back. I let out a sigh. Those two siblings, their tempers are just as stubborn as each other's. They never use soft words, every line goes straight for the lungs. It would be a miracle if they didn't end up fighting. I was worried about Monica too. You look around near your place. I'll check the spots she usually goes to. Okay. Keith's voice was a little hoarse. After a pause, he added, "Thank you." After hanging up, I called Monica's boyfriend. He said she wasn't with him. When he heard what had happened, he panicked at once. "I'll look around my neighborhood too." I threw on some clothes and hurried out the door. An hour later, I found Monica at a late-night food stall we often visited together. She was busy demolishing skewers. I sat down across from her. Monica looked up, saw me, and forced a smile. "I knew you'd be the first one to find me." Her eyes were red, she'd clearly been crying. I sent a quick message to Robert and Keith to let them know I'd found her, then tossed my phone on the table and snorted. "Well, look at you. All grown up now, running away from home." Monica lowered her head, chewing on a skewer, and said nothing. "Fought with your brother?" I studied her face. "Don't be too hard on him. You kept this from him for so long. Of course he'd be mad, finding out you're pregnant all of a sudden." "I know I shouldn't blame him. I'm the one who did wrong." Monica sniffed. "But I still can't help resenting him a little. He's been controlling me in every way since we were kids. Any guy who tried to get close to me, he'd practically want to run a background check on their ancestors for 18 generations. I've had 3 boyfriends, and when they broke up with me, they all gave me almost the exact same reason: your brother is too scary. I can't handle it." I sighed. If they didn't have anything to hide, then even if your brother were the king of hell himself, there wouldn't be much he could do to them. "Robert seems like a good guy to me. Let your brother meet him and have a proper talk." Monica nodded. That was the plan. The skewers she ordered smelled too good, and I soon joined in. We ate and chatted at the same time. "Do you remember when you were a kid and almost got abducted by traffickers?" Monica froze and looked up at me. I pressed my lips together. "Your brother noticed in time. He grabbed the handle of the trafficker's van and refused to let go. They dragged him for over 10 meters before the neighbors rushed over and rescued you. Your brother's arm and leg were both broken, but the very first thing he did when he woke up in the hospital was look for you." These were things Keith never had the nerve to tell Monica himself. But when he was dating me, he'd once opened his heart a little. I always felt that if anyone needed to hear those words, it was Monica. "Your brother has seen taking care of you as his responsibility since you were small. He's afraid you'll be lied to. He's afraid you'll get hurt. After Aunt Brown passed away, he couldn't pull himself together for a long time, but for your sake, he forced himself to stand up again. Monica, you're the only family he has left. So sometimes, even if the way he loves you isn't the best, try to cut him some slack. Your brother is also a first-time brother." Monica's fingers tightened around the bamboo skewer until her knuckles turned white. She stared down at the table, quiet for a long time. Just when I thought she wasn't going to respond at all, she finally spoke. "I know. Honestly, the moment I walked out, I regretted it. I hid this from my brother, he had every right to yell at me. But you know how I am. I'd rather die than lose face. I couldn't bring myself to turn back, so I came here instead." She sniffed and glanced up at me. We held each other's eyes for a few seconds, then both burst out laughing. When we'd finished all the skewers, she let out a satisfied burp. "Susan. I stuffed the last lamb skewer into my mouth. "I don't think I ever told you about almost getting abducted when I was a kid." "You did. You just forgot." "Really?" Monica scratched her head. Then, as if something had just occurred to her, she suddenly smiled. "Do you know what I was thinking just now while you were talking to me?" I looked at her curiously. "I was thinking, you kind of sound like my sister-in-law." She broke into wild laughter. "Isn't that horrifying?" I did not dare respond to that. I gave a couple of awkward chuckles and fell silent. "I'm gonna hit the restroom," Monica said, getting to her feet. "Wait for me." She headed into the nearby mall. The second she left, I finally let out a quiet breath, only to hear someone call my name from behind. "Susan Perry." I turned and saw Keith. I didn't know when he'd arrived or how much he'd heard. Thinking about everything I'd just said to Monica, my face went hot. "Thank you." He stood in the shadows, and I couldn't make out his expression. "You don't have to thank me. I did it for Monica." Keith left before Monica came back. He said she'd probably still feel awkward seeing him right now. Monica stayed at my place that night, then left early the next morning. She said Robert was coming over to her place to meet Keith and have a serious talk. The whole day, she barely replied to my messages. She seemed busy. By evening, I finally saw a post she'd put on her Moments 10 minutes earlier. "Wow, my brother's cooking is amazing." The photo was of a full table of beautiful dishes. I couldn't help laughing as I liked the post. I left a comment to show support. "I'm so jealous I could die." Looked like Keith found Robert acceptable enough as a brother-in-law. 2 minutes later, I got a private message from Keith. "Home tomorrow?" Me, "Why?" "Keith, I'll come cook for you." Dinner never happened. Keith was suddenly called away on an emergency mission. I sat on the couch, staring at our chat history on my phone in a daze. "Keith, home tomorrow?" Me. "Keith, I'll come cook for you." Me, "We already broke up." Keith, "Then this time, let me be the one to chase you." Staring at that last message, my heart started to beat a little faster. I put my phone down, and, against my will, my mind drifted back to the night we broke up. "We're incompatible" was an incredibly flimsy excuse. But Keith never asked for more. He only asked whether breaking up was really what I wanted. When I told him yes, he nodded. "If that's what you want, then I'll give it to you." It was exactly that calm reaction that made me feel, in that moment, that breaking up had been the right choice. Before that day, we'd been like so many other couples. We ate together, watched movies, exchanged gifts on holidays, complained about colleagues and bosses, and shared whatever we thought was fun or interesting. I thought we were a good match. Then one day, while I was chatting idly with Monica, she mentioned what Keith looked like in her eyes. "My brother seems to be dating someone, but that relationship looks exhausting," she said. My heart clenched, but I still couldn't help asking, "Why do you say that?" "The other person is probably younger," she said. "She talks about all kinds of things my brother doesn't know. He has to force himself to keep up with her topics, afraid she'll get upset otherwise. He comes home from missions in the middle of the night, feeling awful, and still has to comfort his girlfriend, who's frustrated about her job. He's in a terrible mood himself, but he puts on a brave face, and she doesn't seem to notice. I just feel like she doesn't like him as much as he likes her." She concluded, full of conviction, "They won't last long." Monica's words were like a tiny thorn, slipping silently into my heart. From then on, I started watching Keith's reactions very closely.